they're diametrically opposed. First of all, the whole concept of trying to squeeze God into science doesn't make sense, because it's I was engaged with a scientist, so I know.
Oh, you were engaged with a scientist.
Yeah, she was.
And it worked out really well, right?
So
greatest love story ever told.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, the trying to squeeze God into a lab doesn't work, because science is built on a lab principle. You can demonstrate everything, you can see it. So that you can't test for God, right?
Yeah.
So trying to squeeze God into science perverts science. It does extreme damage to science, right? The same applies when you try to take science and squeeze Torah. Torah doesn't have room. It doesn't need to be changed. It doesn't allow for change. When you start perverting it, hey, you're not supposed to have that. You do extreme damage to Torah.
Yeah.
Anyone that comes along and says, oh, there's room in the Torah for something, more than that, somebody needs to be ignored, because they're damaging and perverting Torah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
let's go back to
conversions.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so here's what I want to say. So there's two ways to become Jewish. One is
Reform, conservative.
No, we're not going to go into that. There's two ways to become. Either your mother is a Jew, or you had a kosher conversion. Okay, so that's part one. Now, let's talk about a kosher conversion and what that really entails. The process, there's a conversion process. Here's the problem. Let's start off with the finish line. You need to go to a Beis Din. The Beis Dins that are accepted are only in a few cities in the world. There's not like one on every block. You have to get converted by a Beis Din, by a rabbinical court that is basically either in New York, or I think there's one in Chicago, there's one here in LA, which handled you. I don't know really the details of it. There's some in the state of Israel. And that is basically it. I mean, there might be like a few that I don't know about, and I'm not saying that I know where they all are, but I'm just saying, they don't really... Now, you have to work with a rabbi who has a relationship with that Beis Din.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
The rabbis who handle conversions are very far and few, and they generally are in the same city or area, geographical area, as the Beis Din that's going to convert you. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So that means that basically you have to work with a rabbi who has some relationship to LA, Chicago, New York, or state of Israel, one of these kind of places. Next step, not every rabbi handles conversions. They are far and few between. The experts on conversions, the ones who regularly do that, the ones who have a good reputation for doing this, are very, very few.
Yeah.
You don't come to me for a conversion.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know how to do it, and I don't want to do it. I don't want to get involved. That's a whole specialty. It's like going to a brain surgeon for, it's like going to a dermatologist for brain surgery.
Yeah.
It's like okay. So what am I saying? So that's then the next step is, one of the requirements that rabbi is going to have is that you have to work with him closely on a day-to-day basis. You have to be at his shul every Shabbos, which means you're going to have to walk to shul, because Jews don't drive on Shabbos. Which means you have to move into his neighborhood and be part of his community. Okay, let's talk about what that excludes. Let's talk about what that really means. If you live in some place like Oregon, that's not going to happen. You have to move.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody who converts in Oregon.
Yeah.
If you live in Washington, that's not going to happen. You could live in Idaho. You're not going to become Jewish. You could live in Nevada or Northern California or Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Wyoming, South or North Dakota, and you will never become Jewish. Am I right?
As a general principle, for instance, I know Portland. There's an Orthodox shul there, and they work with a Beit Din in Seattle. So
am I wrong?
So I remember there was someone there at the Orthodox shul in Portland who was going through the conversion process, but his Beit Din was in Seattle.
So there is one in Seattle.
So there's a Beit Din in Seattle. There's quite a bit of Torah in Seattle.
Oh, okay. Listen, I could be wrong.
You're right as a general principle. So
I stand corrected.
Let's say you're in like I was in Salt Lake City. There's a Chabad there, and they would send you, if you wanted to convert and you wanted to join their community, they would send you to a Beit Din. I don't know, in either New York, Chicago, probably perhaps Los Angeles, and perhaps you'd fly in for your meetings with the Beit Din while you would develop a relationship with the rabbi. But you may need to move to the big city, so it's a very serious commitment.
Okay, I listened to Luke. He's going to know more about this. I shouldn't. I just stuck my foot in my mouth because I'm wrong. You could actually do it in Washington. Here's the thing. I'm going to be honest. I don't know where all the base-ins are. I don't know where they are.
You're talking more as general philosophical principles.
Right.
So if Rab says you can't convert in the state of Washington, don't take that as a literal statement that you can't convert in the state of Washington. Take that as a spiritual statement about living.
I'm just taking it as I'm wrong. Okay.
Living in the diaspora, like living away from Torah, it's going to be hard for you to convert. So just don't worry about the very specifics of locales where
here's what you got to do.
Rabs proclaims no.
Here's what you got to do. Here's what you have to do. You have to find out who will convert you. You have to go talk to a rabbi who does kosher. You have to go find out on your own. You have to do some research and find out where they are.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to impress. Because
Yeah.
I know so many people. I have been asked so many questions over the last, let's say, 5 years or so on the internet, and like everything, every kind of question you can imagine comes to me. And the one that's by far the most common is, Rabbi, I want to become Jewish, what do I have to do? And I say, first thing you have to do is you're going to have to find out who's the rabbi, you have to work with a rabbi, you have to live in a rabbi's neighborhood, you have to move into a Jewish neighborhood, and that rabbi has to be able to do conversions. So if there's a from shul near you, you need to talk to him and find out who does conversions.
Yeah.
If he does it, move into his neighborhood. If he doesn't do it, ask him where you have to move to. That's what I always say.
And if you can't figure it out, you're not smart enough to become Jewish anyway, and we don't want you.
Now stop that.
No, I'm serious. It's a challenging process. If it seems so daunting and difficult and just too much for you to get your head around, then it's probably not for you. It is a difficult, daunting process. It should be that way. You have to jump through some hoops, and unless you're able to do that, we really don't want you to become Jewish. At least that's my opinion. I won't speak for the rabbi.
Yeah,
I'm happy that the conversion process is difficult and it's not just all laid out A, B, C, D, E. You're going to have to use some initiative and get out there.
I would listen to him over me on this, and I'll tell you what. He actually did this. My experience with it has been two-part. One is, like I said, I got a lot of people who write to me, and they say, I really, I didn't grow up Jewish, I grew up Catholic, I grew up this, I grew up whatever. Right. And, it's like I realized that the Torah, I really respect Judaism and everything, and I want to become Jewish, like what do I have to do? And I say, the first thing I have to do is move into a Jewish neighborhood, and work with a rabbi. And they're going, well, I live in Timbuktu, and it's not going to happen, and it's like, I don't know what to tell you, you're probably never going to be Jewish. If you can't move, you're never going to be Jewish. Okay, that's one aspect. The other thing is I had a personal experience because I was dating a woman who was in the conversion process. Yeah. She was in the conversion process already, and I started dating her, right? Yeah. And the assumption was she was going to finish this thing, we possibly would get married. But she didn't finish it, and that was the end of that. And I lived through that whole nightmare, and I know what that's like. And her problem came down to money, because she lived far away from the shul. Right. The rabbi she was working with lived kind of far from her, and he required that she would move into his neighborhood, but she couldn't afford to because, of course, he picks the most expensive part in the city to build his house and his shul. Right. I don't get this part. This is my big problem. Why do they make it so hard, and it's going to come down to who has the most money? Because you go to Jewish neighborhoods, I hate to say it, tend to be more expensive than non-Jewish neighborhoods. And I don't care what part of the country you are. The Yiddalach move in, the prices shoot up, right? Yes. Okay, so the rabbi builds his shul where the Jews live, and they live in like the most expensive part of town, right? And all the housing prices are jacked up, right? Am I right? And you have to move in there because you have to be walking distance to shul. So now you have to be in this really, really high rent district, right? Well, not everybody has the physical financial means to move there. She didn't, and that was the end of her conversion.
I just want to make a point, and you'll have to excuse me, it is from Rabbi Gadol, but it is a good one. You see, becoming a Jew is hard, just like becoming a director at Goldman Sachs or running a major movie studio. Like, Jewish life is daunting. Rabbi
Gadol's now Rabbi Lakewood Ruff?
He's good, he davens with the Lakewood Ruff.
Look, I'm not looking at this thing, that was the deal. How come I don't hear what Leslie and Shira...
I'm following, they haven't asked any serious questions, and I'm cutting and pasting the chat so that you can validate this. Every 10 minutes I'm going there, I'm cutting, pasting the chat, and I'm emailing it to you, so you can see that I'm just not snowing you. And also, as far as that it takes some money to convert to Judaism, I'm okay with that. Like, a lot of conversion programs and rabbis will, may work with you to some degree, but I'm okay with converting to Judaism being difficult. you will have to move into a Jewish neighborhood, which is more expensive than say a